Correct. Haribol. So happy to see you all.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. This is
Hey, there is our special guest today. I'm Supriya Mataji. Thank you so much for joining. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. I think I cut somebody off. I'm so sorry.
No problem. This is going to be like this. We'll probably move it next week from the temple, so it'll be much more streamlined. So, we'll see. We'll see.
Thank you, Haribol.
Thank you, Haribol. So,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mrigakshi Mataji. Very nice to meet you. All right, let's get started. Roop Sagar Prabhu, Haribol, thank you for joining.
Hare Krishna.
All right, my apologies. We started a little few minutes late, but we can get started and then we can continue. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yutapadakkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karunas Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhayascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasa Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Matsamo Nasti Papatma Naparadhi Chakaschana Parihare Pilajjame Kimbruve Purushottama Bhumau Skalita Padana Bhumireva Valambanam Tvai Jata Paradhana Vameva Sharanam Prabho Adadanastrhinam Dantaridam Yache Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Padam Bhojau Tulisyam Janma Janmani Pangum Langayate Shailam Mukamavrichaye Shrutim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Krishna Chaitanyam Ishwaram Radha Radhita Radhesha Radhika Prana Vallabha Radha Ramana Vande Tvam Radhika Prema Hare Krishna. Before we get started, is anybody or amongst the audience who's joining this semester, the 10th chapter onwards? Hare Krishna. Yes. Please go ahead, Hari, Murali, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, everybody. My name's Hari. Nice to meet you all. I'm from New Jersey and I'm a college student, and I heard about this from one of my friends, Tejas. So thanks to him, I'm here. I'm ready to learn.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Hari. Thank you for joining. Yes, who else? Sugopi Mataji, did you?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Nice to meet everybody. Please accept my humble obeisances. I'm joining this semester. I'm part of the ISKCON Silicon Valley congregation. So this is my first Looking forward to it.
Hare Krishna, Subhapi Mataji. Thank you. And who
Hare
else?
Krishna, Prabhu. I'm Deepti Dheer Madhimi Dasi from Minneapolis, and this is my first semester to join. So I'm looking forward to for the classes and all that. Please, Danvat Pranam and all Guru Srila Prabhupada. All Guru Maharaj.
Welcome. Thank you for joining.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, this is Nikunja Gopika Devidasi from Delaware. This is the first class I'm joining.
Hare Krishna, Nikunja Gopika Mataji. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thanks for letting me in.
Hare Krishna, this is Pradeep Agarwal.
Hare Krishna, Pradeep, where are you from?
I am from San Jose.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining. And who else? Akshay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone. Dhanva Pranam. Yes, this is my first semester. I was in the introduction class, but yeah, this will be the first semester I'm doing. So I'm looking forward to it.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Cool.
Anybody else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I'm Jyoti Agrawal, and I'm also joining first time.
Jyoti, Hare Krishna, where are you from?
I'm from California, USA.
Wonderful. Which part?
San
Area?
Jose. Yeah, San Jose area.
Very nice. All right. So, anybody
yes,
else?
sorry, Hare Krishna. My name is Lalita Vrashagopidasi. My first time with you here. This is from Argentina. I am from Argentina.
Very well.
And looking forward to sharing with you these lessons.
Lalita Vrajagopi Mataji, thank you so much for joining. It's my pleasure and honor to serve you. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
So, for the last semester, we went through chapters 1 through 9 of Bhagavad Gita. And then we also had a session a couple of weeks ago, a few weeks ago, where we covered the entire 10th through the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Just we gave a brief overview of each chapter. And so today we are starting on from the 10th chapter. Before we start, just for the benefit of those who joined, I will, in a nutshell, in a couple of minutes, give the broad overview of the first 9 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. That way, it will help refresh memory for those who already completed and will give context to those who just joined. The first chapter of Bhagavad Gita presents the dilemma and the resolution of Arjuna to not fight. He was torn between killing his own kinsmen and other soldiers, worried that the deaths will plunge him into hellish condition and also completely devastate the social structure, because of which the men, when they are killed on the battle, will leave women and children unprotected. Thus, they will be degraded by the society, and there will be unwanted population that can completely destroy the world. There were many reasons that we went into why Arjuna did not fight the battle. In the second chapter, the first part of the second chapter, Krishna explains at length the difference between the body and the soul, up till the verse number 30. From 30 through 39, Krishna induces Arjuna to fight based on the fruitive mentality. But the last part of the second chapter, Krishna talks about how to achieve self-realization through performing one's duties without being attached to the fruits of the duties. And the verse that's famous is the, what is that? Karmanye vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma palaye turpur mate sambhusva karmani, where he says that do your duties but not be attached to the fruits of them. After the second chapter, Krishna talks about karma yoga in the third chapter, where he emphasizes that every action produces equal and opposite reaction, except for those activities which are performed for yajna or for hari. He goes on at length to explain about different types of karma, how to be performed, and the results of those who do not follow the Vedic's life cycle. He explains the Vedic situation in this material world, where how the demigods are created and how the human beings have to perform sacrifices, and that cycle is set. And then those who don't follow that cycle, how their life is in vain. After explaining that, Krishna talks about his own attitude towards work. He says that I have not come here to desire something or to earn some fruits. My appearance is not based on some money that I am being paid in this world. He explains so beautifully. And at the end of the third chapter, Arjuna asks Krishna about what impels a man to act sinfully as if pushed by a force, and Krishna answers that. In the fourth chapter, the culmination of karma yoga leads to jnana, or the path of realization of knowledge, complete realization. And in the fifth chapter, Krishna talks of karma sannyas yoga, where one gives up or performs one's duties without being attached to sense gratification, knowing that sense gratification leads to misery. In the fifth chapter, he segues a little bit into dhyana. In the sixth chapter, he talks full-blown of dhyana yoga, of how one at the advanced stage of dhyana yoga goes to the forest, performs meditation. And then Arjuna asks a couple of questions, raises some objections, but Krishna answers them. And towards the end of sixth chapter, Krishna, he says, of all the yogis, those who worship me, they are the highest according to my opinion. Yoginam api sarvesham madkatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam samaya yukto pamomataha. After explaining that those who worship me with faith and devotion, they are the highest of all the yogis, Krishna talks about his own opulences in the seventh chapter, along with he is the source of both material and spiritual worlds, and how the jivas or the living entities are his part and parcels. At the end of the seventh chapter, Krishna talks about multiple terms like Adi Deva, Adi Yajna, Adi Bhuta, so on and so forth. And Arjuna inquires about those terms. What is Adi Yajna? What is Adi Deva? And then was one more most important point Krishna mentions is that those who remember me at the time of death, they achieve me. So Arjuna asks those questions like how to remember you, or how one can attain you at the time of death. And Krishna answers all those questions in the 8th chapter. In the 9th chapter, Krishna talks of pure devotion with the famous verse, Ananyas chintayanto mam yejana paryupaste tesham nityavayuktanam yogakshemam vahamya. He says, to those who have unflinching devotion for me, I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. And towards the very end of the chapter, Krishna explains or gives the final instruction, Manmana bhavamat bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishisi satyamte atvanam parayana or pratijani priyosimi. They are one and the same. Where he says, become my devotee, always think of me, offer your homage unto me, and in this way you will come to me without fail. So that is, in a nutshell, the first 9 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. Now we are getting into the 10th chapter. Usually we in the temple and in other places, we all do the verses together. It would be nice, but because it's Zoom, there can be a very high cacophony if you all try to do it together. So this time we'll skip in the interest of time, because there are about 42 verses to cover in the 10th chapter. So we will just get through those verses, and then later we can open up or spend more time for question and answers. I've been told that there is a broadcast that's happening in the temple at 3:30, because of which I need to have a hard stop by like 2:30 or maximum by 2:40 or so. So far, so good. Everybody okay with this kind of thing? I'll share the screen and then we can get started. every gem of every purport of Srila Prabhupada is a gem that is really, really beautiful to meditate on. But in the interest of time, we might not be able to dwell a lot of time. But those who have questions, I need someone to help me note who have raised their hand. Please raise the hand. You can ask questions in between. Please raise your hand, or that is, there is an emoticon on the Zoom. Please raise your hand, and who will call or who will interrupt me and ask me questions. Carly, hurry well. So nice to see you. All right, who can
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams. Krishnangi Mataji, are you there? All right. So
Yes.
Sorry. So would you be able to spot who raised the hand? And then
Yes.
Just okay. Thank you. Kripatita Mataji, thank you so much for joining. It is so early for you, and yet you took the time to join. I'm deeply grateful. We will adjust the time so that we move back, not front. Please forgive me, but thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranams. Haribol.
Tarun, thank you for joining. All right, we can get started. Share the screen. Everybody able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Good. Text 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bhuya eva mahabaho Shrunu me paramam vachaha Yatteham priyamanaya Vakshyami hitakamyaya. Increase this a little bit. This is not the thing I wanted. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Listen again, O mighty armed Arjuna, because you are my dear friend. For your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained." And devotees asked me this question in the past. What do you mean that he gave knowledge better than what it was explained? Or is not the knowledge that Krishna gave till us perfect? Why is that he is saying? The idea here is when we know that devotional service to Krishna is the goal, but there is no impetus, there is no desire to serve Krishna unless one hears about his opulences. And that is the theme of this particular chapter. As Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, and as I've highlighted here, the more one hears about the Supreme God, the more one becomes fixed in devotional service. So if Krishna's bhakti is the goal of my life, then knowing more about Krishna, that is wonderful, because that way I can fix my mind on Krishna. You might like someone, but when you hear that that person is very, very opulent and rich and so on and so forth, your liking increases or decreases? It increases, unless you are very, very envious. Then, but it usually increases, and that's what Krishna is saying. So that's why he's saying, by giving this knowledge, I am increasing your love for me. So that's why it becomes better than what he has given so far. And in the next verse, he says, Name vidu suraganaha prabhavam na maharshayaha aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences. For in every respect, I am the source of the demigods and sages. Well, the question might be raised, if the sages and the demigods, they don't know much about them, then why are we hearing the prayers of these sages and demigods? Is it not? I mean, we hear about Brahma's prayers, we hear Shiva's prayers in Bhagavatam, and there are so many other prayers offered. Narada Muni offers prayers. The idea here is that it's not that they do not know anything about Krishna, but they only know to the extent Krishna reveals himself to them. And everybody has that capacity. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, when Suta Goswami said, I will describe to you about the pastimes of Krishna, because the sages of Naimisharanya specifically said, oh Suta, please describe to us about this wonderful Lord that we hear so much. And Suta Goswami said that I can describe to you to the extent I can know. And as the capacity of a bird determines how high it can fly in the sky, similarly, the capacity of mercy that Krishna gives to the devotee enables that particular person to describe about Krishna. So Krishna here is saying that I will give you the complete picture, because there is nobody else who can tell you about me except myself, which a fact Arjuna acknowledges later. And Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, even the demigods and great sages cannot understand Krishna. They can understand neither his name nor his personality. So what is the position of so-called scholars on this tiny planet? So it seems to be a very esoteric thing, that trying to understand Krishna through knowledge seems to be not the best thing. Then how can you know Krishna? It's a conundrum. It's a puzzle. Means unless Krishna tells you, you cannot know. And if he doesn't tell you, and you cannot know through your own mental process or mental speculation, then how can one realize Krishna in factual or in truth, in reality? And Krishna does answer that a little bit later. So far, so good. Any questions, any comments, concerns? We will cover a lot more, and you are also free to type in chat, and then we can take that later. Text 3. Yo mamajamanadim cha veti lokamaheshwaram asammudha samartyeshu sarva papai pramuchyate. The first result of knowing Krishna is here. What does he say? He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme Lord of all the worlds, he only or she only, undeluded among men or women, is freed from all sins. If you know Krishna, then the Lord is saying that you will be freed from all sinful reactions to work. One of the common things is pride can be a very a deadly sin in the heart. And if you know Krishna, and you know because of him everything is happening, and because of his own grace that I'm able to do certain thing, pride is something that will not be so much in the heart. And Arjuna had this powerful realization. Yudhishthira Maharaj had sent Arjuna to go to Dwarka and find out what the Lord's plan was. And Arjuna didn't come for many, many months. Yudhishthira was worried. He had already had nagging doubts, and he was told by the sages that the Lord would disappear soon, and perhaps did that worst thing that ever happened. And Arjuna comes. He's pale, his withered look. He completely feels drained from material existence. And Yudhishthira Maharaj asks so many questions. Why? What happened? He said, did you do this? Did you do that? Did somebody come to you for protection and you didn't give them protection? And so on and so forth, he asks. And then later, the most dreaded question he asks, did the Supreme Absolute Truth leave the world? Did Sri Krishna depart from this world? And Arjuna says, yes, that's what exactly happened. And he says that Krishna's wives that were entrusted to me by protection, a band of ordinary cowherd boys came and they defeated me. My Gandiva, my abilities were totally useless in facing these ordinary cowherd boys. And it is mentioned, Srila Prabhupada writes, that my ability was dependent on Krishna. And now that that ability is gone, my Gandiva bow, which is so famous and famed, now has become completely impotent. So we can just see how knowing Krishna, then the pride automatically diminishes in the heart, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. Even knowledge. If a person is really proud, oh, I know so much, but you should understand from what is the basis of that knowledge. That's Krishna. And if Krishna doesn't give you the memory to hold that knowledge and to recollect that knowledge, it is difficult, at least in the spiritual sphere. Materially, yes, you can endeavor to an extent, and we'll come to that point as well. It's mentioned in the next few verses. All right, verses 4 and 5. One another final point in the verse number 3 before we go ahead, which I highlighted, is that how do we know about Krishna, or how do we know the will of Krishna? It is mentioned, Srila Prabhupada writes, because the spiritual master is the representative of the Supreme Lord, his direction is directly the direction of the Lord, of the Supreme Lord. His direction is directly the direction of the Supreme Lord. The spiritual master, saintly persons, and scriptures direct in that way. There is no contradiction between these three sources. All actions done under such direction are free from the reactions of pious or impious activities of this material world. And Srila Prabhupada used to say that Krishna says, surrender unto me, and I say, surrender unto Krishna. So there is no difference in that particular sense. Text 4 and 5. Buddhir jnanam sammoha kshama satyam damah shamaha sukam dukkam bhavo bhavo bhayam cha bhayameva cha ahimsa samata tushtis tapodhanam yasho yashaha bhavanti bhava bhutanam matta eva prutagvida. Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of senses, control of mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame and infamy. All these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone. This is a big, beautiful purport that we can take time. Srila Prabhupada actually goes into each of the phrases. What is intelligence? What is freedom from doubt and delusion? What is forgiveness? What is fearlessness? What is fear? Everything is in detail described in that particular purport. And all these qualities of living beings are created by me alone. This might give a very good verse for those who are procrastinators, which means, or who put off things or shift the blame. Oh, unless Krishna does it, I can't do it. For example, if I please go to temple and see the Lord, is a common refrain. Oh, no. Unless Krishna inspires me from within, I cannot go to the temple. Please cultivate, for example, control of senses. I'm just saying that. Oh, no. Bhagavad Gita, if somebody who's half knowledge, they'll throw this verse. They will say, in Bhagavad Gita, it is said, I have no sense control. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that Krishna has to create that sense control. Otherwise, I won't have it. So if he can't create, I won't have it. Is that a good, his argument seem logical? It may be fallacious, but is that a logical argument? Hari agrees with me. Thank you. So what is the answer to this particular conundrum? Srila Prabhupada writes, it's a big purport. Please take your time to go through. It's a wonderful purport. The last point, in the last paragraph, Srila Prabhupada writes now everybody is able to see the highlighted section that I highlighted in the document here. Okay. Now for one who wants to advance in Krishna consciousness, Krishna creates all these qualities, but the person develops himself from within. So Krishna will give you those, but there is your effort also to develop. Because oftentimes we have this question, oh, I have so much of struggle with mind and senses. And personally, I can tell from me, I am such a fallen person. I have a lot of difficulty controlling mind and senses. The idea here is, why doesn't Krishna help me? He created the mind. He put me into this mess. He has to get me out. Krishna is saying, I will get you out, but you have to put in your effort. You have to put in your own 2 steps to make me go 10 steps towards you. And Srila Prabhupada actually writes that in this. So we put in our effort. We may stumble. We may be perfect. We may be imperfect. Sometimes our rounds are great. Sometimes our rounds are really, really not that great. In any case, when we put in our effort from within, then Krishna will help us. And there is the last point. And then you might say, oh my God, I have to do all these things. That's a little too much. But Krishna actually, the Srila Prabhupada actually says, one who engages, this is the last statement of that highlighted section, one who engages in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord develops all the good qualities as arranged by the Lord. So either we can seriously internally develop it, which we should anyways, and at the same time, by doing devotional service, automatically the qualities will come about. And it's a fact. And yeah, I have personally witnessed the amazing transformations in some of the devotees. The devotional service has changed their heart to kind of not change from where they were 20 years ago or something like that. Now, amazing devotees. Krishna goes a little bit more. We'll take a break after 14th verse, maybe. We'll take a break and then we'll take much of the questions. And then we can get started. Text 6. Maharshaya sapta purve chatvaro manavastata madbhavamana sajata yeshan loka ima praja. The 7 great sages, and before them the 4 other great sages, the Manus, progenitors of mankind, come from me, born from my mind, and all the living beings populating the various planets descend from them. When Krishna talks about the second verse, where he says that neither the hosts of the sages nor the demigods know me in truth because I am the source of them, he further substantiates that all these living entities came from me. And Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that Krishna is the origin of everything and including Brahma. And Brahma created all the living beings, the different varieties of living beings that we see in the world. It's a common problem amongst the scientists, which came first, the chicken or the egg, and they can never get a proper resolution unless there was a chicken or a male and female chicken created, and that had the necessary qualities to procreate. And Krishna is saying that I am that source from which everything comes. Text 7. Etam vibhutim yogam cha mama yovetti tattvataha so vikalpena yogena yujyate natra samshayaha. One who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mind engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this, there is no doubt. This is an amazing statement. And that is the reason why Krishna is mentioning earlier that I'm giving you something higher. Because the more you know about me, then the more you will be engaged in my devotional service. The more you will give up the concept that, I am the controller, when Krishna is the supreme controller. And you might give up to say that I am the enjoyer, when actually Krishna is the enjoyer. And in that state, the living entity gets complete satisfaction and happiness. And that's further also mentioned in this particular verse. I like this particular statement by Srila Prabhupada. The highest summit of spiritual perfection is the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And whatever Krishna gave thus far referred to either the spiritual or the Jnana Yoga or Dhyana, even mixed Bhakti Yoga. But here Krishna is giving pure unalloyed devotional service by mentioning about his opulences. And Srila Prabhupada actually, he writes, one should not neglect to understand fully how great Krishna is. For by knowing the greatness of Krishna, one will be able to be fixed in sincere devotional service. That is such a, he is saying don't neglect. So, in the conditioned state, in the materially conditioned state, if a person speaks too much about himself, usually there is some sort of resentment in the part of hearer. After a time, oh my God, you're speaking too much, and you tune out after some time. But here, Srila Prabhupada is saying, don't neglect to know the opulence of Krishna, because by knowing the opulence of Krishna, you will be engaged in his sincere devotional service. It was really, really nice. So the next 4 verses constitute the Chatushloki verses of Bhagavad Gita, or the 4 pivotal verses. And I believe that these 4 verses are there for memorization for this particular semester. So please do look it up. For those who have come new, who have joined to, this semester, we have in the exam verses for memorization, which are based on these particular chapters of Bhagavad Gita. And of that, 3 or 4 verses will come from 11 or 12 verses. When we write the verses in the exam, you give the Sanskrit, either Roman transliteration, for example, Lalita Vrajagopi Mataji from Argentina, she can just give the English, she can give this one. You can just say, she can actually write in the paper, AHAMSR. So you can go like that. Aham sarvasya prabhuvo, and matta, you write this. And this verse has to be exact. The same thing, you can't change the order here, but here you can change. Here you can paraphrase it. You don't have to memorize the exact English. If you want to memorize, you want to kind of go for it. But at least you should be able to paraphrase the English translation from the Sanskrit verse. So I believe that these 4 verses are there for memorization. If not 4, 1 or 2. We will send out the list. I think this already been sent out in the WhatsApp group, but you can just take a double look at it. So here Krishna's famous Chatushloki starts. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matah sarvam tavartate iti matva bhajante mam buddhabhava samamita. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. Those who perfectly know this engage in devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. The more Krishna explains, he is giving the secret here. These 4 verses actually constitute how, by performing devotional service to Krishna, there are 2 or 3 benefits that happen, and we can kind of go into it as we go ahead. Text 9. Machita maggata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantascha mam nityam tushyanti charamanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. And so just the talk of Krishna amongst his devotees generate such intense happiness, such intense source of bliss, that seems to be the soul's ultimate satisfaction. And there seems to be nothing else that seems to be more pleasurable or more desirable in this material existence than to talk about Krishna and to discuss the topics of Krishna. This is a beautiful purport. Please take your time to read. And this purport actually Srila Prabhupada writes or introduces, because talking about Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, there are not many pastimes of Krishna or the life history of Krishna. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada mentions that one should read Srimad Bhagavatam, where many beautiful pastimes about Krishna are mentioned, and they can be a source of joy for all the devotees that are conversing amongst each other. Then what happens, when we serve Krishna, when we talk about Krishna, and when we chant his holy name, as Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport here, by chanting this Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. What happens, and the gradual development is given in this purport. Please do read this. And in the next verse, 10:10, he says, Tesham satatayuktana vajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogantam yena mam upayantite. He says that to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they come to me. And this is the most munificent of all gifts that Krishna can give, is from internally he can give that intelligence. In fact, Srila Prabhupada uses, the Buddhi Yoga is at length described in this particular purport. And also, I think a very important point for those who might seem to be staying far away from temple, or whose accessibility to the community of devotees is very less, then Srila Prabhupada comforts this with this particular statement, which I'm going to read out. A person may have a bona fide spiritual master and may be attached to a spiritual organization. But if he is still not intelligent enough to make progress, then Krishna from within gives him instructions so that he may ultimately come to him without difficulty. This is a very satisfying and profound verse. Having said that, it doesn't mean that one should not go to temple or serve in the temple based on this statement saying that I can stay home because Krishna will give me intelligence from within. It is more in terms of my desire to achieve Krishna and my inability to have that paraphernalia. Krishna is saying, I will help you do this. I'll help you go do this. You go here, go do that. And then Krishna will give instructions from within. And you can see that is the power of devotion, that Krishna personally guides you from within the heart. And wouldn't that be wonderful? And that's why Krishna is saying that this knowledge is better than what I have told you so far, because it's the perfection. On the last point, even if one is not sufficiently knowledgeable about Krishna, Krishna is saying that through devotional service you get that. And let's see the last verse, 11. Tesham evanu kampartam aham ajnana jamtamaha nashyami atma bhavasto jnana deepena bhashvata. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Because speculative knowledge can never lead to about Krishna, and for those who are sincere, Krishna is staying in the heart, and then he'll destroy that ignorance and lights up the lamp of knowledge. And to those, one gets the conclusion, one knows what the scriptures are all about. And what is the meaning of devotional service. And Srila Prabhupada actually goes at length to say that the Mayavadi philosophers usually think that they are superior because they have jnana, and they might kind of say to the devotees, you basically have nothing. You don't indulge in too much of Vedanta Sutra reading. You don't know much about Vedas. Upanishads, you just have Ishopanishad, but that's about it. What else do you have? What jnana do you have? And the answer to that is this particular verse, where we have bhakti to Krishna, and if Krishna is pleased with us, then he can destroy. And it's the same thing that is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Jana Yatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayadahaitukam. It says that in the Bhagavatam it is mentioned, for those who render unalloyed devotional service to Vasudeva, simultaneously two things happen. Jnana and Vairagya come into the heart. How will they come? This is magic. Is this some sort, because I'm not explicitly indulging in actually reading books and memorizing and debating and taking whatever I'm doing, but it is good. Which brings up the next question. Prabhu, all this is great. Why am I wasting my time with Bhakti Sastri? I should actually, Krishna, you just gave your own answer of why I shouldn't be coming to Bhakti Shastri, because of the simple fact that I'll get the knowledge from within the heart. You will get the knowledge from within the heart, but Krishna is saying you should endeavor, to know about me, unless the fact that you should know about this means you should read. Otherwise, how will you know? It's a counter cycle, it goes on. And please understand, if you read Bhagavad Gita, we will understand nothing if we don't have that faith in Guru and Krishna. Because there are so many authors who wrote on Bhagavad Gita. They are scholars, they are Sanskrit professors, they have translated Bhagavad Gita, and the translations are, well, academically super, but they have no clue of what Bhagavad Gita holds. So in that sense, also there is an instruction from Srila Prabhupada and Guru that one should read Prabhupada's books. And Bhakti Shastri is a platform to create that particular, facilitate the reading. It's nothing more. By doing Bhakti Shastri, it's not suddenly you will become the president of your respective countries. Like, Lalita Rajagopi Mataji, I can't promise you will be the president of Argentina if you complete Bhakti Shastri. Or I'll become the president of Akshay, you won't be the president of USA. Or you will not get a raise at work. Suddenly the whole people will not become. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to purify the heart. And Srila Prabhupada has given this platform that we can read the books together. Let's see what else. Let's read this one and we'll stop. The Lord tells Arjuna that basically there is no possibility of understanding the supreme truth, the absolute truth, the supreme personality of God, simply by speculating. For the supreme truth is so great that it's not possible to understand him or to achieve him simply by making a mental effort. Man can go on speculating for several millions of years, and if he is not devoted, if he is not a lover of the supreme truth, he will never understand Krishna or the supreme truth. Only by devotional service is the supreme truth Krishna pleased, and by his inconceivable energy, he can reveal himself to the heart of the pure devotee. The pure devotee always has Krishna within his heart, and within the presence of Krishna, who is just like the sun, the darkness of ignorance is at once dissipated. This is the special mercy rendered to the pure devotee by Krishna. All right, so we will stop here, or we take a break. We have Arjuna's prayers. We have still about 30 verses to go because it's 42 verses. But we can take a break for questions, for comments, for any suggestions. Hare Krishna. Yes. Prabhu.
So can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yes. So I was just wondering in the, I think it's, fourth, fifth verse. One of the qualities, actually, interestingly, in this case, there are all positive qualities that are mentioned. There was no negative quality as such. Of course, we understand that both positive and negative, everything comes from Krishna. But in this case, one quality is mentioned, which is infamy. You know, Yasho, Ayasha, both fame and infamy. So I was just wondering why would that be the case? Just came to my mind.
So there are few places where there Krishna does mention, for example, fear and fearlessness. If you can see the list.
Yes, true. Yeah. Now I see actually. Oh, I didn't notice this actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Happiness, distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness.
Both dualities are there. Okay.
Yeah. So it's both the dualities are there. Yes.
Okay. Okay, bro. I think then, I think I was, that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Okay, I welcome few devotees here. Yes, some there was.
Oh, there's one on chat.
Yes, please. Okay, let me take a look.
Cool.
What is the meaning of devotional service? Devotional service means to render service to Krishna. And Prahlad Maharaj, in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he gives the 9 processes of devotional service. Smaranam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam, Iti Pumsarpita Vishnu, Bhaktis Chain Navalakshana, Bhagavati Uttamadhyadya, I don't remember the last 2 lines. But these 9 constitute the process of devotional service, Mataji. Hearing about Krishna, chanting about him, offering prayers, rendering service, becoming a friend, surrendering everything. So that's the process of devotional service. Is that okay? Jyoti Mataji.
Prabhu, Divyangi Lalita Mataji raised her hand.
Yeah. I will. Jyoti Mataji, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Divyangi Mataji.
Please accept my humble obeisances. On the 6th verse, Prabhu, Krishna is saying here that the sages and Manu are born from him, from specifically he says my mind. Just wondering any reason why Krishna says mind. In the sense we know he's a Bija Pradipita, but why specifically the mind?
So if you see in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a concept of Manasa Putras. The idea is that you can create somebody just from willing, and that's a possibility. Because Krishna, he is saying, Pitahamasya Jagata Mata Dhata Pitamaha. He says, I am the mother, I am the father, I am the grandsire of this universe. He doesn't need to have a male and female to procreate. He can just will, and he can through his mind generate many personalities, and that's what is being mentioned here. Other questions? Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhuji, I have one question about text 10. Like it says, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I gave them understanding by which they can come to me. So just wondering, like, what is constantly devoted? Like in the material world, my mind is always agitated. Sometimes for material desires and all that. So just trying to understand what is constantly devoted, like it is possible in this world, or like how do I develop that quality so I can remember him constantly?
So the word constantly, excellent question, by the way. The constantly is dependent on one's level of advancement in Krishna consciousness. There in the devotional service, there are two kinds of paths, which is called the Vaidhi mark, or the paths of rules and regulations. And there is the Raganuga mark, or the spontaneous path of devotional service. When we take initiation within ISKCON, we vow to chant how many rounds? And that's once a year, correct?
Every day.
So at that level, our constancy is to chant 16 rounds every day. That is our constant, because in the devotion, in the beginning stage, the instructions or the orders of Guru becomes the source of constancy. But later, when we advance in devotional service, the perfection is to reach to the point that the mind, the body, and the soul is so absorbed in Krishna, there is no other thought. So based on which level you are, the constancy applies.
Okay. Yeah.
Some spiritual masters, they order that you should read Srila Prabhupada's books, at least 1 page a day, or something to that. I don't know if that happens, but that's your constancy.
Even though I read book or chanting, whatever instruction we have to follow, but yeah, that level, I don't know when I come to that level. So that is the thing.
Mataji, one reassuring statement can I tell that I read from Srila?
Yes, please. Those are motivating, actually.
In Nectar of Instruction, in the first semester that we read, Srila Prabhupada writes that devotional service, once started, will drag the practitioner to the ultimate goal. The word is not that we drag ourselves. The devotional service will drag us. All the methods can have their ups and downs, but with the devotional service, we rest assured that it's just a matter of time. It's just at times things will seem bleak, things will seem discouraging, demotivating, no energy, and millions of things happening. But if the constancy of our purpose, if my heart says Krishna, no matter what, whether good or bad, ups or downs, if I somehow or other can remember you and can serve you, that's my attitude. You may give me what you want to give me. That's your prerogative. But my say in this matter is this. And if you have that attitude, Krishna will be so merciful, so kind, that he will clear the ways, he will clear the paths. Whether it's a Jyotish problem, it's a health problem, it's a Vastu problem, whatever problem, Krishna will clear it out.
Yeah, that I always keep in my mind. That's why that motivates me all the time, actually. So that's good. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for the motivation. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. 2 questions I had. I think in the second verse or the third verse, it was discussed that, unless Krishna reveals himself, one will not know Krishna, right? And then I think Brahma was also mentioned in that purport. This was something that I've been thinking about this point. How do we understand, especially about Brahma, considering that
this is the Brahma Matva Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, and if but if Brahma, Krishna doesn't reveal himself to Brahma in full, or if Brahma doesn't understand Krishna, then how should I understand that part?
Okay, the second question, Pranav.
The second question was not pertaining to this verse, but in general, where the purport it talks about, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. The reference was given. This, sometimes on the practical level, it seems, a constant confusion of to do, not to do. What is right? What is the right thing to do? How to know which is pleasing to Krishna? My actions. And it seems to be on a practical level, sometimes in spite of, seeking guidance, sometimes seems to be a challenge.
Yeah.
Or there are more than one ways to do things, on a practical level. So I thought just reminded me of this point, and how can one practically more should I constantly seek guidance, or more guidance?
That's an excellent question. That's an excellent question. So let me go back to your first question. I think there's, I see where you're coming from. If we claim ourselves to be Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya Sampradaya, and if Brahma does not know, then, it's a big question mark on the disciplic succession. Like, it's like, really, if he doesn't know, then why am I following him, right? Kind of thing.
Not that way. I'm just trying to understand it.
I get it. So the idea there is, if my knowledge of Krishna is like a drop, Brahma's knowledge is like Pacific Ocean, and Krishna is like infinite number of oceans. So it's a relative thing, and they can absorb, or they have such realized knowledge of Krishna. The whole point that the Lord is making is not to belittle demigods, but to say that even demigods will not know fully about him. And to that particular thing, you might think, okay, well, you always need to corroborate, right? When Krishna says this, now let's see what Brahma says. Okay. Let me share the screen, and then I can get into that. So this is the prayers. This is the shloka from Brahma's prayers in Srimad Bhagavatam, where he was bewildered by Brahma. He was bewildered by Krishna's Brahma Vimohan Leela, and he offers prayers. Here Brahma says, Jananta eva janantu kim bahukya name prabho manaso vapusho vacho vaibhavam tavagocharaha. There are people who say, I know everything about Krishna. Let them say that way. As far as I am concerned, I do not wish to speak very much on this matter. Oh my Lord, let me say this much. As far as your opulences are concerned, they are all beyond the reach of my body, mind, and words. And you can see the point as far as your opulences are concerned, because Brahma tasted the opulence of his mystic power, of bewildering, and how Krishna can bewilder. And he says, no. And this is exactly the point that Krishna is also saying here. Even the host of the sages or the demigods will not know my opulences because they are unlimited. And they are there in this material world. Brahma's lifespan is 320 trillion years, or 420 trillion years, something to that effect. But in comparison to Krishna, his opulences are not there. So that's what it is mentioned. If our drop of knowledge, if ours is like a drop of knowledge, Brahma is like a Pacific Ocean, and Krishna is like infinite number of oceans. So you cannot know fully, but they know like billions of times more than. Is that okay? And approve for the first point.
Yes, Prabhu.
The second point, Srila Prabhupada writes one thing. You know, the Guru Sadhu Shastra, the most important point he writes is they never contradict each other. So the happy medium should be that, you know, if there is a contradiction somewhere, then you should examine why. And is the information correct? Is it in harmony or is it in disharmony? So that's a more generic thing, but specifics we can always get into later. If that's okay with you.
Yes, Prabhu.
Because they have to be in harmony. It has to be somewhere, some missing point. If a guru says that, you know, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, surrender unto him, and Guru says, now you surrender unto me, and the logic he uses is because Guru and Krishna is the same, yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, surrender unto me. That is nonsense. So there has to be some, you know, discrepancy is there and how it can be fixed. Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Ram Babu, I think that's what Krishangi mentioned. That's the next, right? But did you have somebody?
Yes, Prabhu. Ram Babu Prabhu is next.
Yes, Prabhu. Ram Babu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dhanavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, I just want to know why 10.8 to 10.11 is called Chaturshloki Bhagavad Gita. So we see similar verses in other chapters also. So what is the specialty of these 4 verses, Prabhu?
So in these 4 verses, Krishna encapsulates everything. He gives in a nutshell of who he is, and he is the supreme controller, and then who is the jiva, and then how one can go back to him. In a nutshell, the entire message of Bhagavad Gita is captured in these 4 verses, without any prelude. Aham sarvasya, I am the source of everything, and my devotees, they worship me, and I give them the knowledge to come back to me. In a nutshell, he is encapsulated the message of Gita, and that's why it's called the Chaturshloki.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. I think 10 and 11, they talk about the jiva and how they go to. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But it explains everything, you know. It's like it's in a nutshell. Everything is, and you can fluff it out, and you can get many meanings into this, and that's why it is called.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
Other question? All right, we need to go a little bit ahead, and then I'll continue a few more. The vibhutis, we can go a little faster because that's we can discuss a little bit, but we'll go faster on vibhutis. All right, and that's how we kind of when the flight is late and the captain says we'll make up in the air, that's our making up in the verses. So. But you can stop me anytime you want. The goal would be to have discussion. We can actually read this on our own in the comforts of our home. There is no need to have class. But the reason we have class is when questions come up, then the subject matter becomes more in-depth, and we can see so many angles coming. And so that way the subject matter gets impressed in the mind much better than you just trying to read on your own. So. All right, did I share the screen right? Okay.
Yes, Prabhu.
All right, so let's go to the viewing part. Okay, that works. Okay. All right. So the next verses in 12:13, Arjuna offers prayers. I believe that there are 2 prayers in the entire Bhagavad Gita. one is in the 10th and one is in the 11th, where Arjuna is like openly offering prayers to Krishna. And these are few of the prayers here. Arjuna uvacha param brahma param dhama pavitram paramam bhavan purusham shashvatam divyam adidevam vibhum ahustvam rishayas sarve devarshir naradastata asito devalo vyasaha swayam chaiva bravishime. Arjuna said, you are the supreme personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala, Vyasa confirm this truth about you. And now you yourself are declaring it to me. And Srila Prabhupada writes here in the purport that it is just, oh, Arjuna is a friend of Krishna. One friend will say to another friend, oh, you are so great. You are the best person on this earth, and so on and so forth. It's just mere flattery. And Srila Prabhupada writes here, no, not just me, but all the great sages have also said that you are the supreme absolute truth. One of the nice in the purport Srila Prabhupada gives, this is a very powerful point I found. If we want to understand Bhagavad Gita, we should accept the statements in these two verses. This is called the Parampara system, the acceptance of succession. Unless one is in disciplic succession, he cannot understand the Bhagavad Gita. Text 14. Sarvametadritam manye yanmam vadasi keshava nahite bhagavan vyaktim vidurdevanadhanavaha. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. And here Krishna is just saying, accepting the words of Krishna. Nobody can know me. Nobody can know you. Okay, I'm going to hire a private investigator and follow you, chase you everywhere. And then, I'm going to hack into your accounts to kind of know your bank balance and everything. Of course, I'll know everything about you. And Krishna says, nobody can know me. Arjuna says, yes, Prabhu, I agree. Nobody can know you. So that is the way that, it is mentioned here. Srila Prabhupada writes that the best way to understand Bhagavad Gita is the way understood by Arjuna. And then here we are just taking the words of Krishna as it is. That is the beauty of understanding Bhagavad Gita, and that's what it is mentioned here. And why nobody can understand you? The next verse, text 15, Arjuna states this. Swayam eva atmanatmanam vetatvam purushottama bhuta bhavana bhutesha deva deva jagatpate. Indeed, you alone know yourself by your own internal potency. Swayam evatma natmanam vetatvam. O Supreme Person, origin of all, lords of all beings, God of all, God of gods, Lord of the universe. Only you can know by your own self. Nobody else can know you. And unless you reveal yourself, then I cannot know you. Vaktyumarhasya seshena, text 16, sorry. Vaktumarhasya seshena divyahi atma vibhutayah yavir vibhuti virlokan imam stvam vyaptyatishtasi. Please tell me in detail of your divine opulences by which you pervade all these worlds. Somebody might question, and who knows, this might come in exam, that Krishna displayed the opulences to Arjuna, and then Arjuna was convinced Krishna is God. But he didn't show me opulences, so how can I get convinced? As in, like, he has seen the opulences, and therefore he is convinced. So which means he was not convinced that before Krishna was God. Am I making any sense? Today people are wondering, which pollen did this Prabhu inhale before coming for the class? So it is, the answer to that is Arjuna is convinced that Krishna is the Lord, then he is asking to reveal the opulences, not the other way around. He says, Param Brahma, you are the supreme absolute truth. And the reason I am asking for these opulences is twofold. And these twofold will be told here. Arjuna is asking on behalf of us. Here, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, for him there is no doubt, yet he is asking Krishna to explain his all-pervading nature. People in general and the impersonalists in particular concern themselves mainly with the all-pervading nature of the Supreme. So Arjuna is asking Krishna how he exists in his all-pervading aspect through his different energies. One should know that this is being asked on behalf of the common people. So he's asking for our benefit. I'm convinced, but I'll still ask you, because later, when we are reading 5,000 years later, they should also know what your opulences are. Text 17. Katam vidyamaham yogim stvam sada parichintayan keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintyosi bhagavan maya. O Krishna, O Supreme Mystic, how shall I constantly think of you and how shall I know you? In what various forms are you to be remembered, O Supreme Personality of Godhead? And this is the same question asked by Mataji earlier. In this day and age, how can I think of Krishna? With so many distractions, so much of mind being focused in like a million directions, how can I think of Krishna? And here Krishna mentions his opulences. One example I'll give in this regard. So Pranath Prabhu, he has a 7-year-old son called Dhruva. Now, Dhruva is not going to be at home every day because he will go to school. When he goes to school, Pranath Prabhu will see the small home slippers of Dhruva, or maybe his clothes, or maybe his toys. Does he think, oh, this is another shoes? What does those pair of shoes help him remember? His son, yes? Yes or yes? So in the same way, the opulences of Krishna that we see in this material world help us remember of Krishna, help us think of Krishna. And that is the reason why, because it's a catch-22 situation. Krishna says, always think of me, you come to me. But Baba, I'm in this material world. How can I think of you? Everything I see is matter. It's not spiritual. It doesn't signify you. If I start telling, if I start acting in an artificial way, I'll have serious problems. Because I'll make it humorous. Don't get me wrong. And I'll pick on one devotee. So initially I know that devotee. I'll pick on Anand Kishore Prabhu. So Anand Kishore Prabhu is attending a very serious meeting in his office. There is a crisis going on, and there is an issue on production. And the boss is drawing something on the board or what the strategy they should adopt to fix this serious problem that can cause major issues. And then the boss asks Anand Kishore Prabhu, so can you see the solution now? Do you see what we should do? And Anand Kishore Prabhu says, everywhere I see only Krishna. It's an artificial way of just projecting the impression of Krishna, unless Krishna tells you that, hey, this is my opulence. So the way in the way the material world works, there are some opulences that Krishna highlights that says, these opulences, if you see, you can think of me. One common example is everybody goes to ocean, or everybody goes to a beach, or everybody has seen a beach, or everybody has experienced a beach. As soon as you see the beach, this ocean is representative or opulence of Krishna. So by seeing the ocean, actually is evoking the thought of Krishna. What is material to most of those will actually invoke spiritual thoughts. So that is the beauty or opulences of remembering Krishna. And that is exactly the question by Arjuna, that how can I think of you? How can I constantly think of you? Because I am in the material world. See, if I think of Krishna, I'll go back to Krishna. But in the material world, there is no Krishna. So how can I think of Krishna? It's a catch-22 situation. And Krishna is saying, I'll give you some opulences in the material world that can help you remember me. So far, so good. Questions, comments, concerns? 2 o'clock. It's fine if we have to. Discussion is important. Not that we are getting commission. I'm not getting commission to complete the chapter. Like, there is sales commission, shloka commission. Babu, you have to complete so many shlokas, otherwise you will not get your commission. There's nothing like that here. So it's better we complete the chapter for the sake of completion. But yeah. Text. So again, the same theme is continued. The superior devotee is concerned not only for his own understanding, but for the understanding of all mankind. So Arjuna, out of his mercy, because he's a Vaishnava, a devotee, is opening for the common man the understanding of all pervasiveness of the Supreme Lord. This is the nature of Vaishnava. It's not just I need to know knowledge. I'm just, I'm concerned about my own knowledge of how much I have. In fact, the more knowledge I share, the more everybody will know about it, and my own significance goes down. So let me not share it. That is generally the materialistic way of thinking. There are copyrights and intellectual property infringements and all that stuff is that. But in the spiritual life, it's exactly the opposite. If I know, then I need to tell everybody as well. And they'll become better than they'll get the same knowledge as you. And the Vaishnavas is the opposite. They shouldn't get the same knowledge as me, but they should become much better than me. They should become much advanced than me. So that is the mentality or the thinking. And and that pleases Krishna to no extent as we come to the 18th chapter and we'll come across that. Text 18. Vistarena atmano yogam vibhutim cha janardana bhuya kataya triptirhi shinvato nasti me mritam. O Janardana, again, please describe in detail the mystic power of your opulences. I am never satiated in hearing about you. For the more I hear, the more I want to taste the nectar of words. So Krishna's words and Krishna's thoughts and Krishna's pastimes are so nectarian that we just want to hear them again and again and again and again, because every time they increase in beauty, they increase in sweetness, and they increase in happiness that you hear about Krishna. And the same is mentioned by Srila Prabhupada in the Srimad Bhagavatam, this particular shloka here. Vayam natu vritvipyama uttama shloka vikrame yachnnatam rasajnanam svadu svadu pade pade. One can never be satiated even though one continuously hears the transcendental pastimes of Krishna, who is glorified by excellent prayers. Those who have entered into a transcendental relationship with Krishna relish at every step the description of the pastimes of the Lord. And earlier Mataji is saying, how can I kind of think of Krishna? The more you read, the more the mind gets pulled away from material stuff. You get a natural attraction for Krishna and natural distaste for everything material. It just happens in a very natural, organic way. And that is the beauty of reading Bhagavad Gita. Text 19. Hantate katayishyami divyahyatma vibhutayah pradhanayatah kuru shreshta nastyanto vistarasya me. The Supreme Personality of God had said, yes, I will tell you of my splendorous manifestations, but only of those which are prominent, O Arjuna, for my opulence is limitless. The beauty here is, if Krishna started talking about his unlimited opulences, I wish he talked, but 5,000 years later, he would still be talking and many generations would live and die because There is no end to his opulences. And Krishna says, that's why it is mentioned here. Krishna knows the living entities do not understand the extent of his opulences. He therefore agrees to state only the principal manifestations of his different energies. So he's just giving a highlight in a nutshell of how much. So from here on, we'll quickly go through all of them, and then we can take the questions in the end. And then I'll go really fast. We'll have questions and we can take it. Text 22 onwards. Text 20 onwards. Aham atma gudakesha sarva bhutashayastitaha aham adischa madhyam cha bhutanamanta eva cha. I am the super soul, O Arjuna, seated in the hearts of all living entities. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. Adityanam aham Vishnur Jyotishyam Raviram Shubham Marichir Marutam Asmi Nakshatranam aham Shashi. Of the Adityas I am Vishnu, of the lights I am the radiant sun, and of the Maruts I am Marichi, and among the stars I am the moon. Vedanam Sama Vedosmi Devanam Asmi Vasavaha Indriyanam Manaschasmi Bhutanam Asmi Chetana. Of all the Vedas, I am the Sama Veda. Of the demigods, I am Indra, the king of heaven. And of the senses, I am the mind. And in living beings, I am the living force, consciousness. Rudranam Shankaraschasmi Vittesho Yaksharakshasam Vasunam Pavakaschasmi Neruho Shikarinamaham. Of the Rudras, I am Lord Shiva. Of the Yakshas, I am Rakshasas. I am the Lord of wealth, Kuvera. And of the Vasus, I am the fire, and of the mountains, I am Meru. Purodasam cha mukhyam mam Viddipartha Brihaspatim Senani namaham Skandaha Sarasam asmi Sagaraha. Of the priests, O Arjuna, know me to be the chief Brihaspati. Of the generals, I am Kartikeya, and of the bodies of water, I am the ocean. Maharshinam Briguraham Hiramyasmi Kamaksharam Yajnanam Japa Yajñosmi Stavaranam Himalayaha. Of the great sages I am Bhrigu. Of vibrations I am the transcendental Om. Of the sacrifices I am the chanting of the holy names Japa. And of the immovable things I am Himalayas. Ashvatta Sarva Vrikshanam Devarshinam Chanaradaha Gandharvanam Chitrarataha Siddhanam Kapilo Munihi. Of all trees, I am the banyan tree, and of the sages, I am the demigods. And of the sages amongst the demigods, I am Narada. Of the Gandharvas, I am Chitraratha, and among perfected beings, I am Kapila, and sage Kapila. Uchchaishraivana Shamasvanan Vidhimam Amritodbhavam Airavatam Gajendranam Naranam Chanaradipam. Of horses, know me to be Uchchaishrava, produced during the churning of the ocean for nectar. Of the lordly elephants, I am Airavata, and among men, I am Nark. Ayudanam aham vajram, henunam asmi kamaduk, rajanas chasmi kandarpaha, sarpanam asmi vasukihi. Of the weapons, I am the thunderbolt. Among cows, I am the Surabhi. Of the causes for procreation, I am Kandarpa, the god of love. And of the serpents, I am Vasuki. Anantas chasmi naganam varuno yadasamaham pitrinam aryama chasmi yamaha samya matamaham. Of the many-hooded nagas, I am Ananta, and among the aquatics, I am demigod Varuna. Of the departed ancestors, I am Aryama, and among the dispensers of law, I am Yama, the Lord of death. Praladas chasmi daityanam kalaha kalayatamaham Mriganam cha mrigendroham vainateyascha pakshinam. Amongst the Daitya demons, I am the devoted Prahlad, and among subduers, I am Time. Among beasts, I am the lion, and among birds, I am Garuda. Text 32. Text 31. Pavanaha pavatamasmi Rama shastra britamaham Jhasanam makaraschasmi Srotasam asmi Jannavi. Of the purifiers, I am the wind. Of the wielders of weapon, I am Rama. Of the fishes, I am the shark, and of the flowing rivers, I am the Ganges. Sarganamadirantascha Madhyam Chaivaham Arjuna Adhyatma Vidya Vidyanam Vadaha Pravadatamaham. Of all creations, I am the beginning and the end and also the middle. O Arjuna, of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of the self, and among the logicians, I am the conclusive truth. Aksharanam akarosmi dvandvasamasika cha aham evakshaya kalo tataham vishvato mukaha. Of letters, I am the letter A, and among compound words, I am the dual compound. I am also inexhaustible time, and of creators, I am Brahma. Mrityu sarvaharashchaham udbhavascha bhavishyatam kirtishrirvakcha narinam smritir meda dhritikshana. I am all devouring death, and I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, and steadfastness and patience. Text 35. We'll describe all this. Just let's wrap up the next few verses and then we can describe. Brihat samata tasamnam gayatri chandasamaham asanam margashirshoham ritunam kusumakaraha. Of the hymns in the Sama Veda, I am the Brihat Sama, and of poetry, I am the Gayatri. Of the months, I am Margashirsha, November, December, and of the seasons, I am the flower bearing spring. Dyutam chalayatam asmi tejas tejasvinamaham jayosmi vyavasayosmi sattvam sattvavatamaham. I am also the gambling of cheats, and of the splendid, I am the splendor. I am victory, I am adventure, and I am the strength of the strong. Text 37. Krishnam vasudevosmi pandavanam dhananjaya muninam apyaham vyasa kavinam ushana kavi. Of the descendants of Vrishni, I am Vasudeva, and of the Pandavas, I am Arjuna. Of the sages, I am Vyasa, and among great thinkers, I am Ushana. Text 38. Dando damayatam netirasmi jigichitam maunam chaivasmi guhyanam jnanam jnanavatamaham. Among all means of suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment, and of those who seek victory, I am morality. Of secret things, I am silence, and of the wise, I am the wisdom. Text 39. Yachapi sarva bhutanam bijam tadaham arjuna atadasti vina yatsyan maya bhuta characharam. Furthermore, O Arjuna, I am the generating seed of all existences. There is no being, moving or non-moving, that can exist without me. Nantosti mama divyana vibhuti nam parantapa esha tuddesha taprokto vibhuter vistaro maya. O mighty conqueror of enemies, there is no end to my divine manifestations. What I have spoken to you is but a mere indication of my infinite opulences. Text 41. Yad yad vibhuti matsattvam srimad urjitameva va tat tat eva avagachatvam mama tejom shasambhavam. Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. Text 42, last verse. Athavai bahunaitena imjnatena tavarjuna vistabhyahamidam kritsnam ekamshena stito jagat. But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. So, a couple of points that we go. So Krishna is describing a group of objects and the chief of all those groups, and that has been the common theme of all his description. Quickly going through some differences. I'll just so here Adityanam Aham Vishnu Jyotisham Ravi Ramshuman. So Adityas means is the names of sun. In Srimad Bhagavatam, we see that the sun passes through 12 zodiac signs. And when the sun is in each zodiac sign, there is a particular name for the sun. And in that zodiac signs, the Lord is saying, I am Vishnu, of the Adityas. Of the Adityas here means of the suns. And then the luminous bodies there is sun. So that is one point I wanted to do. Remaining are all pretty self-explanatory. So the other thing is Meru. What's the difference between Meruhu Shikarinamaham. Here the Lord is saying that of all the mountains, I am Meru. And then here also Sthavaranam Himalaya, which means that of all the immovable thing. This is confusing. There are mountains. What is the difference here? So in the previous days, there used to be a class of mountains that could actually fly. And they would fly and they would settle down. They would crush villages and just people. So Indra used his thunderbolt to cut off the wings of the mountains. So there were two classes of mountains. One were flying mountains and one were not. So those two are described here. That is one thing. Let's see if there is some other points I wanted to. There are, of course, many things that we can discuss at length, but I'm just.
So Meru is flying?
Sorry?
Meru is flying then?
Yes, was flying then.
Oh.
They had wings. They had wings and wingless.
Okay. Okay. And then Himalaya is mentioned immovable, so it has to be not.
Correct. Not moving.
Hare Krishna, I have a question because that's such amazing insight. And before I just had understood or misunderstood that it's like Krishna's everything. So like these mountains. And so the question that I have is, he says, I'm the November, December month, and then the flower bearing spring, and same, like spring isn't November, December. So can you elaborate on that for us?
Sure. So here the months is one group and the seasons is another group. So Krishna is dividing up like that, Carly, saying that, okay, amongst the months I am this, but whereas among the seasons, I am the spring bearing season. So that's the difference.
Okay. Could we also understand that Krishna is everything from these opposing points, or no?
Yes, he is in everything, but it is just more specific. For example, if a mother takes a child to the birthday party and they are asked to leave their shoes outside the door, and there are many varieties of shoes with many different kids, but when the mother spots her own kid's shoes, she remembers. In the same way, everything belongs to Krishna, but something specifically triggers the remembrance of Krishna, and that's what Krishna is mentioning here. The same thing applies to Vasuki and Ananta. You know, of all the serpents, I'm Vasuki, and the same thing. No, many hooded. There are like single hooded serpents, and there are many hooded serpents. Of the many hooded serpents, I am Ananta. Of the single hooded, I am Vasuki. So those are the subtle differences I wanted to point out. One last thing before I take more questions. This is in a thing that is surcharged with the gender stuff. So you are able to see the screen? Because some people, I think this can generate a little bit of controversy. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. And men will be like, really, they will cry for gender equality. You know, these seems to be nice qualities. Why can't I have it? Or if you take it in a very literal way, men can never have fame, or fortune, or fine speech, or memory, or intelligence, or steadfastness, or patience. And Srila Prabhupada actually, he did not mean to say that these are only associated with the women. These are womanly qualities. And if you need proof for that, then, you know, Srila Prabhupada actually writes here, the 7 opulences listed are considered feminine. If a person possesses, if a man is famous, so you can see he uses a man to have womanly qualities. So, you know, the modern kind of contention, you know, based on women, men should be equal, they are just very superficial in one level, because a man might have a lot of womanly qualities, and a woman might have a lot of manly qualities. So it's in that sense that needs to be understood. I wanted to clarify this point because this can be like a source of confusion or contention. I think those were the points. We can take questions now.
Prabhu, can you, because in the previous verse,
actually, Anand Kishore Prabhu,
oh, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Rambabu Prabhu already had his hand up.
Yes, true, yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, the Meru mountain that was mentioned, is it the same Sumeru mountain, which is the center of the universe, and many things are described surrounding that, right? And it's a huge mountain. I'm just confused.
So, yeah.
And if it is flying, I'm not able to imagine how that can fly. It's like 1 lakh yojanas height, it seems, right?
Yeah. When Garuda flies, it seems there will be such a thunderstorms that the whole region Earth can feel the impact. So it's possible by Krishna's mercy. If it is Krishna's vibhuti, then it's possible. Nowadays they don't fly, thank God. As if we don't have enough forest fires and earthquakes and COVID-19 to deal with. Oh man, okay, we have a report now of a flying mountain coming in. It can land at any time tomorrow morning. So better evacuate or I'll be crushed.
Okay, bro. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Anand Kishore Prabhu.
So my question is more on the last verse which we discussed. Prabhupada refers to something as Meda, which I think means applied intelligence, right? And then he calls these qualities as feminine. And there's many times there's this controversial debate between who is superior and who is superior, and many times we say that, I think I had heard in one of the lectures, that there's buddhi and there's meda, and there's no difference between meda, but then there's difference between buddhi. So I don't know, I should have asked this. I mean, because this question was there in the previous, because Prabhupada had mentioned, it came to my notice, Prabhupada had mentioned Meda there. So can you say a little more on that?
So Meda and Buddhi means the same. It defines intelligence.
Yeah, but when it's applied, one means more of like intellectual understanding, And then Meda here, he refers, right, how do you apply? Actually, Prabhupada also mentioned, interestingly, I noticed this in there.
Okay. So you're saying the difference, or between?
Yeah, in one of the lectures, I had heard that the difference between men and women. Actually, we cannot generalize, but then I was just hearing, I think Vanchan Prabhu was sharing, he had heard from Kalakan Prabhu that the difference is not of Meda, but then differences of Buddhi, actually. And then if we take Meda into account, all are on equal platform. The applied intelligence, everyone is on equal platform. So that's what came to my mind. Interestingly, what is mentioned here is Meda, actually. So I was just wondering, actually, if there is more.
Not that I'm aware of, because Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sango Pangastra Bhashadam Yajnai Sankirtanai Praya Yajantihi.
So Medasa.
So it's the true Medasa is even very finer intelligence, or very, very, very intelligent. So in that sense, there I don't see a difference, because again, Krishna uses the word Buddhi Yoga to give Dadami Buddhi Yogam tam. So
if there is a possibility, I didn't hear the context of Kalaganta Prabhu, maybe there is some difference, but I am unaware of it as of now.
Okay. Okay, Ro. Thank you.
I neither have the buddhi nor the meda, so that's a problem. Thank you. I'll look it up to see if there is more finer details. There could be the Sanskrit definition that can go into it. We'll definitely see if there is some specific information by either Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur or Baldev Vidyabhushan on this matter. And we'll clarify in the next class. Thank you for bringing that. Pavitra Renu Mataji, the same question you had on your chat.
Yes, Prabhuji. On 10.37, we are reading about Vasudeva and Baladeva. Both are being described as immediate expansions, and we are asked to understand that Baladeva is the source of Vasudeva. Can you please help me understand that? I'm not able to understand when they both are immediate expansions, how can one become the source of the other?
So I'll read the purport. I see the source of your confusion. In the purport, the first line of the verse 37, it is mentioned, of the descendants of Vrishni, I am Vasudeva, and of the Pandavas, I am Arjuna. Of the sages, I am Vyasa, and among great thinkers, I am Ushana Kavi. Krishna is the original supreme personality of Godhead, and Baladeva is Krishna's immediate expansion. Both Lord Krishna and Baladeva appeared as sons of Vasudeva, so both of them may be called Vasudeva. From another viewpoint, because Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, all forms of Krishna that appeared elsewhere are his expansions. Vasudeva is Krishna's immediate expansion, so Vasudeva is not different from Krishna. It is to be understood that Vasudeva referred to in this verse of Bhagavad Gita is Baladeva or Balaram because he is the source of all incarnations and thus is called the source of Vasudeva. So the question, Mataji, is, is it Balaram or is it Vasudeva? That's what you are saying.
No, Prabhupada is asking us to understand that Vasudeva here refers to Baladeva because Baladeva is the source of all incarnations, right? But I'm not able to understand that because he's describing both Baladeva and Vasudeva as immediate expansions. And how should I understand one is the source of the other one?
So the expansions goes like this. Krishna is the original Lord. His first expansion is Vasudeva. From Vasudeva comes, from Balaram comes 4 Chaturvyuhas. Shankarshana, Vasudeva, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. From that Vasudeva of the original 4, we have 4 more. And from that expansion, Mahavishnu comes. So while all these expansions, they come from the same Lord, it's not like Krishna is the source or from him comes Balaram. So from Balaram comes Vasudeva or the 4 expansions. Please understand that they are not separated. Krishna is Balaram, Balaram is Krishna, but one is the source and the other is the expansion. They are not different. The confusion lies in the fact that if from A, B comes and from B, C comes, which means from A, C cannot come logically. Am I making sense? Because B is the source of C.
Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
But in this case, A is same as B is same as C. There is no difference. So that if we can have that tattva in the mind, then it's easier to understand how, in this case, that Vasudeva or amongst the Vrishnis and Vasudeva means Krishna is referring to his own expansion, that is Balaram. And Vasudeva Mataji is not specifically a person. It can also mean state of consciousness. In some cases, actually, the Acharyas have said, Krishna is talking of his vibhutis, which means they are jiva tattvas. And here Vasudeva actually can mean Krishna's father as well. In the Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur actually gives that. So it can either mean his brother or his father or actually the Vasudeva expansion of Krishna. So it can mean three.
Okay, Prabhuji.
I know it's a little confusing, but we can spend more time on that whenever we get time.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
But in the exam, okay, here is the thing. Oh, Prabhu, this is confusing. In exam, if it comes, what do you do? In exam, anything comes, please write what is there written in Prabhupada's form. Okay. If can just write what is Vasudeva here? Balram.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you.
Yes. So that I will clarify. So don't worry about that. But we can go into a deeper understanding.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay. Pradeep?
Yeah, no, I think I'm confused with the last two questions. I didn't get either the question or I think I don't understand the questions. Last two.
Last two questions. So
that about Veda and this, yeah.
Meda. Oh, the Meda is, the Buddhi and Meda is something, Pradeep, we will discuss more. Because the question Ananda Kishore Prabhu mentioned was, Meda is applied to women, Buddhi is applied to man, and there are subtle differences. I'll dig more into it to see, what is the difference between Meda and Buddhi, and what is the specific context. Why is Krishna saying Medha when it is applied to women or feminine nature? Is Buddhi masculine and Medha feminine? Is that a possibility? That could be one thing. We'll get more into it. So that is the first question. The second question is, how can we know if when Krishna says that expansion Vasudeva is Balaram versus Krishna's expansion is Vasudeva? That is which is Krishna's expansion? Is it Vasudeva or is it Balaram? That's the second question. Is that okay, Pradeep?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. It's 3 more minutes. So everybody kind of felt that the root canal I had by the dentist was much better than attending Bhakti Sastri class. Or the 10 days one-on-one with my mother-in-law was like the best time ever compared to what I had. No, seriously, please do give your comments in terms whether it was fast, slow. You can always make changes, to make devotees happy. So just give us your feedback. Any other final questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Ankur here.
Yes, Ankur, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, what is the source of Chaturshloki Bhagavad Gita? Who identified this for the first time? Was it Shankaracharya or somebody else?
I don't know. Honestly, Srila Prabhupada writes here saying Chaturshloki, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur said that. So we accept that words, but it will be an interesting thing to bring it up. I think let me try doing a little bit more research and let me see if I can get you some answer.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Hey, Hare Krishna.
So, Prabhu, here Krishna says like Brahma, they cannot know him in full, but it's not saying that they can't know him at all, right? So can we understand that by their own endeavor, Brahma cannot know him, but when Krishna showers his mercy, then Brahma can know him? Like that's the implied meaning.
Yeah, it's implied, and such a Dr. Nandi, you perfectly hit the nail, actually, and I'll tell you why. It's the implied meaning is, the reason is this. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Then this is the one. So implied, and Krishna, Brahma explicitly says this in the same prayers that we discussed earlier. Here he clearly says in this particular verse, Tathapi te deva padambujadvaya prasadaleshanugrahita evahi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno nachanya ekopi chiram vichinvan. All right, Dr. Nandi, go for the translation.
My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, He can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the supreme personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years.
Hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a couple of questions. Nigakshi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in the verse number 22, it says like Vedanam Samavedosmi Devanam Asmi Vasava. So here actually in Selinums, it explains that Vasava is the heavenly king. So is it the same Indra, or like in another verse, Krishna says that I am the Indra again? And I think next.
Which verse is this? I mean,
this is text 22 right now.
Yeah, 22, I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
let's
is it the same Indra, or when Krishna says that from Devanam Asmi Vasavaha? So Vasavaha is the Indra himself?
He's the king of heaven, yes, Mataji.
Oh, okay.
So here Indra means the post, because in one day of Brahma, if we have 14 Indras come and go. So whoever is the person that's occupying the post of Indra by that time is called. Good. Anything else?
So that is the particular name when the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. So that is the name of the Indra, that is Vasavaha.
Yeah, Indra has quite few names, Vasavaha. And today we read Indra has another name called Magavan. And so many places Indra has few names. Indra is a post, so Vasavaha can be the name of the actual person Indra. Just like the President of United States is just the post, and Joe Biden is the name. So Vasavaha can also refer to like that.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Pradeep ji, you had more questions?
Yeah, two questions. So if we have any questions after the class, any doubt how to reach you or whom we should reach?
Oh, so there is a WhatsApp group. You can post the question, or we can hold the question till the next class, and then we can always discuss if there are questions from the previous classes, and we can clarify them if time permits.
Prabhu Shyam Sudhakar Das has question.
Oh, okay. Shyam Sudhakar, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Pranam. Very nice class, Prabhuji. It says that a star, out of all the stars, is moon. So astrologically also moon, because is it considered to be a planet wise also? He is considered as moon, or planet wise is different.
So, stars technically, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, are objects that reflect the light of the sun. And so that object means it's a planet as well. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the study of the Bhumandala, we have the moon planet also and its exact location. So it's a planet as well.
Yeah, because we have 27 the other stars also, right? Like we follow in our thing.
Correct.
So both planets and stars, moon is the one which we have to.
Correct. Of all the stars, I am the moon. Correct.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Shyam Sudhakar. Hare Krishna. All right, we are 4 minutes over time. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Hari.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Just wanted to ask the question, what should we do in preparation for next time's class?
So usually, when we did the Bhakti Sastri course, because of the busy lifestyle of modern time, we said that if you read at least 15 minutes a day, because the next class is in 2 weeks' time, and that will be the 11th chapter. So if you can discuss, read ahead of time, it will be nice. But otherwise, We'll have homeworks and that will come through. Please do your homeworks on time and you'll get 30 marks. Exam will be for 70 marks. And then out of which, if you can get 35, passing mark is 65. So my request to you is read at least few minutes a day. It will be much easier. Cramming before exam is a very painful experience because this is such a nectarian verses that are there. You'll neither get the taste nor you'll feel the satisfaction if you just neglect throughout the semester and then try to. So read for the sake of reading, whether you remember or not remember. Don't worry that, oh my God, will I remember in the exam? No, I'm just enjoying Bhagavad Gita. And during the exam, as we approach, then we can fine-tune our approach, fine-tune our strategy to say what we need to read and what will come in exam and so on and so forth. And the other thing, my request to you is verses for memorization will be a challenge if you try to do 2 days before exam, I guarantee you. So my request to you is, if you can take the printout of the verses and stick it on the wall somewhere near your kitchen or wherever it's easily accessible. And even if you don't have time, just glancing over them, that will be useful.
Okay, so would you recommend reading the chapter we read today or reading ahead for the next chapter?
Today is fine as well. Today is fine. And then you can, if you have time, you can do the next chapter. Otherwise, you can do after the class. But if you are interested, you can do it before the class. It's your choice.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Again, I welcome all the devotees who joined today for the first time, including our own Sastri Mataji. And it's such a pleasure to serve you all. I'll see you next 2 weeks from now. We have classes every 2 weeks. And only for 18th chapter, we'll have 2 classes because it's a big chapter. We have divided into 2 classes. But every class is every 2 weeks. And we'll continue the verses like that. Is that okay? Vipati Tanaji, is that okay? All right.
It's good. Thank
Sorry,
you, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you. And then,
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So I will see you all in 2 weeks from now. And Vancha Kalpa, Sarubi Ashtra Kripasi,
Vancha Kalpa
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Srivasa
Hare
Pandit
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much.